another Talk It Over as we continue in this series of Habits of a Healthy Heart. Second message of the series, which again was excellent. But before we dive into that, how are your weeks been? How have things been going? Anything new and exciting, or maybe just fairly level? Nothing crazy.
It's the first week of getting back into like routines again.
It is. Yeah.
That was kind of nice. Work routines and all the other stuff. So that was good. I had missed that. You enjoyed the holidays, but it's nice to get back to that, because then I can feel like I'm getting stuff accomplished that I need to. And then when I'm looking at adding anything new to my life, it feels like there's space, because things are not so chaotic.
Yep.
Like there's room because I'm in a routine again. So it was good. It was a good week.
My week is really good. Really busy. I actually don't know if it's really good. It was a week. It was really busy with work demands, home demands. We had a bunch of appointments that were not local, so I had to drive to those. And then trying to coordinate with snowstorms as to when we wanted to be driving and leaving and all of that stuff too. So it just, I don't know. It was nice to, as Dave was saying, get back into it and just back into the routine of things. Emmett was back at school, which was nice to have. But I don't know, it was a crazy week.
But you made all your appointments.
We made it, yeah.
Even with the crazy weather.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, I'm really glad that we didn't have to go. The one day weather was supposed to be the worst, and so we didn't have to drive that day, which I'm really thankful for.
Yeah, it's again routines. We've been out of the routine of lots of appointments stacked together, and so the next month is fairly stacked together, which is something that's been out of routine for a number of years now. That we haven't had it very segmented.
It kind of goes in waves. Like at certain seasons, we'll have a really busy season, and we'll kind of have a lull, and then we'll have a really busy season. So we're getting into a really busy season.
It's certainly going to be more busy, than it has been in the last couple of years for sure. But I just remember the previous years, it was like back to the hospital every 2 weeks, and you're there like all the time. And we've been out of that where it hasn't been like every 2 weeks; it's been every other month. And it's a different shift back into that. We've got to be ready and prepared and into this. Getting ready for all the appointments, and we've got a bunch down, and there's a bunch more to go yet. So hopefully the weather will cooperate as we move into more of those appointments. But it's getting that routine was nice. Just kind of that first full week back was kind of nice, just to have a bit more regular set routine, and getting back into regular set life group, which was all of us haven't really met in, I think it was 3 weeks or something like that.
Wow.
We mixed and matched together, but not as a full unit for almost a month. So it's kind of nice to actually be able to come back and do that together. So
that's good.
Yeah, so I don't know what that looks like for you guys. What your week's been, something exciting, maybe. Maybe have a new opportunity, maybe at work or something like that as the new year began. Or maybe it's just been a fairly just get right back into that routine with kids to school and that, and just getting ready for the next chunk of routine, which is always fine. So today's message title was When Less is Better. And sometimes that's kind of a hard concept to think, because you always think more is better.
Yes.
Right? It's the opposite. We generally think of that, right? That more is better. So trying to wrap your head around less is better.
And that really is the way our whole world operates.
It does.
More is better.
More is better.
Yeah. Like that's what you always hear.
You never have enough.
Yeah. Always just a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit more. So this idea of less is better is, it's a bit backwards to what everything else tells us. That we should be more. So scripture is from Acts 27, 36 and 38. Then they were all encouraged and also took food for themselves. So when they had eaten enough, they lightened the ship and threw out the wheat into the sea. Now, this is describing very rough seas, things being difficult, boats going to sink. And so they had eaten enough that they were content and got rid of the rest so the boat wouldn't be destroyed or sunk. So I think that really leads into this idea of once we've had enough, we can get rid of the rest. We don't need the rest with us. It can be just given away or gotten rid of.
Yeah.
Because again, we tend to fill our lives up with busyness and things and find ourselves being weighed down by that stuff, as the boat itself was being weighed by down the extra stuff, right? So
great analogy.
it is because
you have to look after your stuff, you have to tidy your stuff up, you have to be concerned about your stuff. Is it breaking down? Is it being maintained? Where do I put all my stuff?
Yeah.
And actually kind of weighs on us, right? It becomes more...
Yeah, again, it's a lot of decision making. A lot of things we're thinking about constantly, just about the things and stuff over maybe other things that are happening around us.
Yeah.
So it can eat up a lot of our time. So this idea of enough, what does enough mean to you? Something that maybe sticks out, or maybe something you thought of years ago that it meant to you.
I think it's changed for me. Craig talked about that. This is the second time in his life where he's got to the place where he doesn't feel like he needs more. And when I was younger, I had a similar time in my life where it was like, I don't need anything and I just like give it all away. And I think then you start accumulating. And then when you start accumulating, you're like, but I want better stuff, or I like another one of those.
Yep.
And we can usually justify it. But I think going back to that, what do I need? And again, being flexible with that, God's not saying like all you need is bread and water.
Yes.
But
Right?
No, it's not extreme.
Yeah.
But our needs, I think, versus our wants. And we've talked about this before.
Yep.
And we get caught up in wants, not needs. And so I think enough is, what do I need in my life? What do I need? And if it's stuff I haven't used, or stuff that someone else could benefit from, or it's stuff that's going to weigh on me, then it's going to entangle, right? I need to get rid of it.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of giving it away. For me, anyway. I know, people are selling stuff on Facebook, and I'm okay with all that. But for me, it just helps my heart a little bit to be like, no, I'm going to bless somebody with it. I'm going to give it away.
Yeah.
And so we do that quite often over the years, and it's kind of free. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's enough. Yeah, I think it changes as over the years. It changes to what enough means to you. And I know for me, it's trying to be content, I guess, is kind of what I put with enough. Because if I'm content, then I have enough. I don't need to seek more or find more.
Right.
So I think it's trying to find the contentness with the things that I have, or, what I have with me.
Yeah.
And that, again, trying to reduce that idea of want.
Yeah.
Over need.
Yeah.
And I think it's just trying to be content with what we have and what we've been given and what we've been blessed with, but not to the extreme of it's just bread and water. That's enough. Right?
Yeah.
So
because God wants us to have nice things.
Yeah, and there's nothing that says that we can't have nice things. It's just how much of those things, right?
How many nice things do we really need?
That's the difference, right?
Yeah.
So
and I think about that because obviously both have kids.
Yep.
And my kids are adults now. But that was a lesson that, I don't know, I was intentional when they were younger in speaking into that. And when I look back at it now, I think, I wonder what their perception of it was. Like, what did, Caroline, what did we model for them when it comes to enough or need versus want? Like, I don't know if we had those conversations as often as we probably should have. It'd be interesting to go back now and talk to them about it and see what they think, what their perspective on that would be.
Yeah.
Craig talked about that a little bit, right? With his kids.
Yeah.
Yep. He did.
The next generation.
Yeah.
How about for you, Lance?
I know I have enough stuff. Like I don't know. We just have too much stuff. I think just as a society, not just specifically our family, but like as a family we do as well. Yeah. But then I get stuck on the. I think it's more of a, I don't know, there's some scientific thing behind it where like if you go and you buy something, you get a dopamine hit.
Yes.
And so I'm like, when I'm having troubles with life, it's difficult, it's stressful, I'll just go buy something and feel better. And so I end up just buying stuff that I'm like, I really don't need this. Yeah. This isn't going to help me fulfill my purpose, my goals in life. This is just adding to the stuff in the house, and there are days where I can be at home and because I don't get out of the house anymore, and then I just see stuff around the house and all the time, and I just get really overwhelmed some days of all of it because it can be really overwhelming.
It is, right? But it kind of weighs on you all the time. Yeah.
So I've even noticed, like, if I clean up my room and then, like, right before I go to bed and then I go to sleep, I sleep so much better than if I were to have left this stuff out.
Interesting.
So,
yeah.
Knowing I have enough and having my heart agree that I have enough, like my head and my heart, they're at odds at times, but for the most part, we have enough.
I know one of the conversations we started to have was, do I have room? Like, if you're getting new stuff in and, you don't have any more room in the closet, so to speak, like then
what are you going to get rid of?
Old stuff has to go.
Yeah.
Like, if I don't have space for it, then it's for sure got to go.
Yeah.
I feel bad for the people that have to actually rent storage space to put their extra stuff in, and to be so caught up in your stuff that that's what you have to do. I think that's really, it's kind of sad.
Yeah.
But I understand all the reasons why we collect, right? Yeah, because there's a hole, there's an emptiness sometimes, and we're looking for that fulfillment, that excitement, that energy.
Yeah.
And so we look for it in maybe the wrong, well, for sure in the wrong places with that stuff. Yeah, I understand that too.
Yeah, so good. All right, so this idea of enough.
Yeah.
How easy or difficult is it for you to believe that you have enough? And what would look different in your life if you believed you did have enough?
Yeah. It's hard because envy and comparison just really kneecaps that.
Oh, it does. It does.
Stay off social media.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Right?
But then even with social media, how much of that is so filtered and done to look happy or to look perfect?
Yeah.
Right? But it tricks us into thinking, oh, well, look how good they are. Look how good things are going for them. We should be doing the same, right? Even though they could be having a whole whirlwind of bad things going on, but yet this whole front of things are perfect. Or last week's message, everything's awesome.
Everything's awesome. Because that's what's good. Having all that stuff, that's what's good. That's what will bring fulfillment, and life will be good. Right? It's just that lie built in again and again and again. You need more.
Yep.
And like Paul, I can be content with what I have. We've been very blessed. And you can't live in North America. For the most part, there are very few people that aren't incredibly blessed.
Yes.
Compared to the rest of the world, all that we have.
Yeah.
And so contentment shouldn't be hard for me. It shouldn't be.
Shouldn't be. Yeah, I agree. Yep.
But I find there are times when contentment's just like right out the window.
Yep. Oh yeah, for sure. But I think that's how media and society has got it twisted to the point where they've got it set that there's release dates for things. This is coming a pre-order, so you guaranteed to have it. To try to force us into, we should trade this in and get something new.
Yeah.
We should be moving things around more because this stuff is better and we should have more of it, right?
More is better. It's not.
It's not. No, I think it can be really hard to believe that you have enough sometimes.
Yeah.
With everything that gets, pushed on us and constantly being blasted by it, I think makes it extremely hard to believe you have enough.
Yeah.
And to be content with what you do have. I find myself, this message for me today really spoke to my word of the year, which is generosity. So I need to be content with what I have, but I have lots. So can we be generous with the rest of things, of stuff? Can I give this stuff away? Can I move it away in a way, because I feel that it's like you haven't been content enough with what you have. So let's scale it down to a point where you've got what you need.
Yeah.
Right. And so, today's message really got me to that point that there's times for sure that I've definitely never thought I've had enough.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And the word for generosity in that really struck that, no, I have way more than I need. Yeah. So let's do something about that.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting, right? Because Craig used that illustration of the jelly beans and took that verse to talk about like better one hand rather than two with toil. Yeah. And because you've got no space to give it away.
Yeah.
And so what you're saying is like, I'll take what I need.
Yeah.
but now I've got the freedom to actually pass it on to other people and bless them.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that life change, I think, is going to be interesting over this next year on what that looks like for me. Yeah. And again, changing, my life in a way that I now know I have enough, that this is the enough. And kind of resetting that this is enough and you don't need more. Now, that doesn't mean that, a blessing may come along and bless me with something or a blessing to the family or something like that. Yeah. That's different than me going out to get something. It's a little different, but I think, it's going to look very different this year moving forward through 24 to see what that looks like. And hopefully that's going to make a big change from here for the rest of my life.
But don't you think part of the challenge is that by having more than enough, we can rely on ourselves and our stuff?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
I don't have to rely on God, right?
Yep, I've got this.
I've built extra in, so I'm good. And if God doesn't show up, I
can pull from the extra.
Right, I'm good.
Yeah.
Whereas living with that idea of no, God is going to provide and we can trust him, that sometimes allows it to get a little closer than we like.
Yep. It gets to that line of things maybe too tight now.
That's right.
Yeah. We've lost all of our margin.
Yep.
Yeah. And sometimes I think that's exactly where God wants to bring us, to say, you can be content here because you can trust me.
Yep.
It'll be okay, rather than worried or anxious or, what I mean? Like all of that stuff.
Yep. How about for you?
Well, I feel like I kind of half answered this question a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't know, God does, like, I'm sure we've shared in the past that, like, we're starting our fast and praying for 1 year, or our word for the year. Yeah. And so I feel like my word this year is purpose. And God started working in me, saying, like, okay, you have all of this stuff, even before this message, I don't know. God works in wonderful ways. Yeah. And so he's like, what's the purpose of all this? Yeah. And so I'm like, that's really interesting. Why do I have some of this stuff? Yeah. And so I started with my crafting closet. I actually have a closet. Okay. So I started going through some of the stuff and being like, I don't enjoy this type of crafting anymore. Well, I don't need to have this, and somebody else can enjoy it. And so I found it was easier to be like, yes, I will part with this, when I was like, okay, God, who am I going to give this to? Well, I think this person might enjoy it. And so then I could joyfully give it away, to be like, you know what, this person will actually enjoy this. And so I will pass it on to them and they will enjoy it. And it can have a better life with somebody else versus collecting the dust in our own closet and holding up space in my brain, because I couldn't even use the space because there was just too much stuff in there. Yeah. And so now I open the closet, I'm like, wow, I can actually be creative in here, because I feel like I have space to do it and the right tools with me, and I have what I need now. And so I don't know, this message really challenged me to take that thinking, that theology, and apply it to other areas within our home and even within our life, of like, okay, why are you actually going to do that item thing that you think is going to be really good for you? Is it really going to be that good? Is it necessary? Is it going to bring you closer to your purpose in life, or is it just going to take you away from what God is calling you to do?
Yeah, that's really good. And to have that reflective attitude about more things in life, how beneficial that would be. Because the challenge is that our contentment we make in our stuff, and so we end up building treasures here on earth. Yeah. Right? And he talked about, really, we want to put away treasures in heaven. That's the wiser place to go, and we know that. Yeah. And yet we often default to here. Yeah. I'm going to build up my treasures here. Yeah. And over Jesus was talking about, it's not a smart move. Like, this is a short-term thing that can be taken away at any moment. And really, you want to invest in eternity. And you can actually do that if you prioritize differently, if it's got a different purpose, and if we're open-handed and generous with it. Yeah. So I think those are fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing to think of. And I really like the illustration that Craig had there about, the one hand, two hand.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when you empty out the stuff and then puts the Bible in there, you have the space, right?
Yeah.
The space is here. where you can be more open to what God's speaking to you because there's nothing in there.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
And you have your little cup of this is my enough.
This is what I need.
Now I can get rid of this,
Yeah.
and we can fill it with what God wants to speak to me.
Ooh, which you could say that bowl of jelly beans then becomes your house and all the stuff in your house.
It could be.
It could become your schedule and everything
Yeah.
I've got planned.
Yep.
And what do I need? Okay, this is what God says I need.
Yep. We'll set that aside. And
Everything else can get out.
everything else can move along.
Yeah.
Right? So it was a great illustration, and certainly, this message definitely spoke huge to the direction of the fast and the word for the year and kind of the next phase as we move through. I'm really looking forward to what God's going to do this year through this idea of generosity, and we have enough. So
Yeah.
I think that's going to be really, really good this year. Wow, we have come to the end of our time here. It flies by, of course. We have great conversation, and I hope you guys have enjoyed just being a part of our conversation here. And hopefully you can bring somebody with you to this, that they'll be able to watch it. You guys can discuss and maybe even start your own life group, because we know our life groups are such a support for us and a way for us to connect with God in a different way and have different perspective and views on what God's speaking to them through the same message. So a great way to continue to grow your faith is, of course, with a life group. We want to thank the tech team behind us for, of course, making this available for you guys. And I want to thank both you, Dave and Leanne, for joining me today. And we, of course, want to remember, whoever finds God
Finds life.